Welcome to the Daily Mets Rundown, where we go over the biggest topics of the day for the Mets. And if you are going through this video and you like what you're hearing, please give me a like, subscribe, and comment what you think about the topics we're going to discuss today. All right, we're going to get right into it here. The Mets are starting a new 4-game series in D.C. against the Nationals. The Mets obviously coming in raging hot, 7 in a row. They are 18-7, 11 games over 500 this early in the season is amazing. They have a 5-game lead in the NL East. Not that that matters right now. There's plenty of time left in the season, but hey, you'd rather be 5 games ahead than 5 games behind. So really good stuff here for the Mets. And the Nationals come into the series at 11-14. They're a feisty team. You look at them and they have really good young players. They're not necessarily ready to compete yet or compete for a division or a playoff spot necessarily, but they have some good young players on this team. One of them being the 22-year-old James Wood. He already has 8 home runs and 18 RBIs this year, and he's looking like he might be turning into a star. Other than that, Keibert Ruiz has started the season really well. He's got 4 home runs. Another guy who they got in a trade from the Dodgers and really expected him to be a big-time player for them. Hasn't really panned out, but this year he is performing much better than he has in the past. And they just have a lot of good young players. They're a scary team to me only because they're not the type of team the Mets generally play well against. They fight for the extra base. But if you look at their overall stats, they're 21st in OPS in the major league, so down towards the bottom of the league, and they're 27th in starter and bullpen ERA. So they're not a very good team, and it's a team that the Mets should fatten up on in a 4-game series. Honestly, I'm expecting them to at least take 3 out of 4. I think that you have to expect that at this point. Expecting another 4-game sweep is a little bit too much to ask for, I think, but you never know. It could happen. The Mets are clearly better in this series. They are the better team, and the Nationals, while feisty, don't really have much. All right, now getting into the pitching matchups. In Game 1, it is Baty and Senger for the Mets against Jake Irvin for the Nationals. We obviously know that Baty and Senger has been very good this year. He has an ERA under 1 at .79, so he's been very successful. And this is a type of lineup that I think he can perform very well against. It's a lot of young hitters. Maybe you can get them to chase that ghost fork, and I think he can have a really successful game. Hopefully. It's baseball. You never know what's going to happen, but I like his chances against the Nationals' offense in this game. Jake Irvin for the Nationals, he has a 5-pitch mix. He throws a curve, a fastball, a sinker, changeup, and a cutter, but he throws the curve and fastball more than anything. The curveball is his biggest pitch. He throws it around 37% of the time, but hopefully they can get to Irvin in Game 1. He's been okay this year. He's got a 3.68 ERA, but for his career, he's about a 4.5 ERA pitcher. So hopefully he's a guy they can hit. I don't always love their chances against guys that aren't good. Usually they make guys that aren't good pitchers look very good, and good pitchers sometimes look very bad. But they've been working counts, and they've had a really good approach lately. So hopefully Game 1 to me is one that definitely is in the Mets' favor. All right, now getting into the Game 2 pitching matchup, we have Clay Holmes going up against Brad Lord. We all know how Holmes has been this year, kind of up and down, a little wild with his pitching. That might work in his favor a little bit against the Nationals because they are a young team who will probably swing at some balls they shouldn't, and I think that should help him out. I expect a nice start out of Holmes here. Maybe he'll go 6 innings like last time. That would be nice, give a little length. We're coming off an off day, so the bullpen should be rested up, but it's never a bad thing to give them a little bit of extra rest. And Brad Lord for the Nationals, he has a 4-pitch mix, fastball, sinker, slider, and changeup. He throws the fastball about 60% of the time. Pete Alonso has been on fire against the fastball, and the team just hits fastballs well, so I could definitely see a big game from the offense here. But also, he's probably more of an opener. He's started some games, he's relieved in some games, so I don't see him going deep into this game. I think it's going to be more of a 3, maybe 4 inning start. He's pitched in 6 games this year, and he's only pitched 13 innings, so he's not a guy who goes deep into games. I just expect them to have a good game offensively in Game 2. Now in Game 3, we have Tylor Megill against Mitchell Parker. Tylor, he's been very good so far this year. Tyler, he's been the same guy in a better version of himself this year. He's always had that stuff where for 3 or 4 innings, you're like, well, how is this guy not great? And then he'll go out in the 4th or 5th inning and just implode and give up 4 runs in an inning and 2 home runs. And he's done that to a smaller extent this year. He'll go 4 really strong, and then in the 5th or in the 6th, he gives up a couple hits, and then maybe gets an out, and then a walk, and then he retires the side. He starts to fall apart, but he doesn't completely fall apart, and that's been the real difference for him. For whatever reason, he has an issue going deep into games. I don't know if that's ever going to be fixed, but if he can just limit the damage, if he can look great for 4 or 5 innings, and then in the 6th come out and give up a run or 2, that's fine. Listen, he's a back-end starter. You can't expect more than that. But he's got a 1.09 ERA this year. So maybe he figured something out. Maybe it's luck. I don't know. But he's pitched really well, and I like our chances whenever he pitches, and that's not something I've ever said in the past. Mitchell Parker, on the other hand, for the Nationals, he has been great this year. He's 3-1 with a 1.39 ERA. He's a 4-pitch pitcher. He's got a fastball, a splitter, a curve, and a slider. Throws the fastball more than anything, almost 50% of the time. So another fastball pitcher, a guy that I think the Mets should be able to hit, though, because he throws his fastball a lot, but it's not a hard, it's about 92, 93. And the Mets hit fastballs well, like I said before. I think he's way overperforming this year, and he's probably not as good as his stats seem to suggest. So I like our chances in this game as well. The Nationals don't have much pitching. Other than maybe Mackenzie Gore, a couple guys, they don't have much pitching, so you're always going to have the favorable pitching matchup against the Nationals. Now in Game 4, we have Griffin Canning against Trevor Williams. We know who Trevor Williams is. He was a former Met. He's a soft tosser. Mets used him basically as a long reliever and spot starter during his time with the Mets a few years ago. And he's just getting older. He doesn't throw as hard. I think his average fastball velocity is about 87, 88, but he mixes up his pitches. He throws a fastball at 31% of the time, but then he's got a sweeper that he throws about 30%, a changeup, a sinker, and a slider that he all mixes in as well. So he's a crafty kind of guy. He hasn't performed well this year. 1-2 with a 5.11 ERA. So obviously he has not had a good year. He did have a good year last year, though. He had an ERA in the 2s. He was one of their better pitchers, which is why they brought him back. And Griffin Canning goes for the Mets. He's 3-1, 3.12 ERA. Obviously, we've all seen what he's done. He's been way better than advertised, way better than expected. We'll see if that continues against a team like the Nationals, who, let's face it, they're not the Phillies. They're not a top team. So let's hope that it continues. I'm not 100% sold on Griffin Canning yet, but it seems like maybe they did do something to figure out how to fix him. Maybe he's not an ace, but can he be a mid-rotation starter? Sure, maybe. We'll see what happens with Canning. I like every pitching matchup in this series. I just think the Mets have better pitching. They have a better offense. Overall, they're just a much better team. So I expect a very good series here, but the way that baseball works, it might be completely opposite. The Mets come in raging hot to play an inferior team, and they might not do so well. Who knows? It's baseball. You never know. It's a long season. All right, that brings us into the next point here, which is that the Mets are getting healthier, and they're bringing in some reinforcements for this series, and that is Francisco Alvarez and Jeff McNeil. They have not played yet this year. They're coming off the injured list, and it's going to add more depth. You're going to see now McNeil being able to play multiple positions, obviously second base, left field. They even tried him out in center field a little bit. So he brings that versatility to the team. He could play multiple positions, obviously. And Alvarez coming back is going to provide some more power to the lineup. Obviously, Torrens has done a great job filling in for Alvarez while he's been out. And I expect it to be not a 50-50 split, but maybe a 70-30 or a 60-40 split where Alvarez is probably going to get the more at-bats because he's young and he was a big prospect, and the Mets believe that he's going to be a very good offensive player. And while Torrens is a very good defensive catcher and he can hit, for a backup catcher, I don't think he's really a backup catcher, but Alvarez is still the guy. And I know a lot of people are kind of down on Alvarez because he hasn't been so great the last couple years, but he's still young. I think he's 22, 23 years old. He's still super young, and I think we still have to give him more time before you say, oh, well, Torrens is now the starter and Alvarez just is a DH, or he gets the less at-bats of the two. Alvarez is going to play at least 60 or 70% of the time, and it's important because now with the return of not only Alvarez but McNeil, you really lengthen that lineup. You're never going to have Hayden Senger, who, listen, Senger did a great job. He got a couple hits. He played great defense for a career minor leaguer to come up and perform with a good team. Obviously, great. Thank you, Hayden Senger. And if there's another injury, I'm sure he'll be brought back up. He proved that while he's not ever going to be a great player or probably even a good player, he's an adequate player defensively. He just doesn't give you much offensively. He can still be a good backup catcher if needed because of an injury, what have you. But you're not going to see a guy like Senger anymore. Baty got sent down. But you just overall, your lineup is so much deeper with those two guys in it. Yes, Torrens has been hot and he's been good for the Mets, but you can't compare what those two players can do offensively to each other. Alvarez could be a difference maker offensively. Torrens can be a good offensive player. Alvarez can be a great offensive player. Now, he hasn't really shown it except for in spurts and in stops and starts, but he does have the ability to be that. He has great power. He shows great leadership on the field. The pitching staff loves to throw to him. So I just love that we're already playing this well, and now we're being reinforced, and we're getting new players in to basically make us even better. There might be some struggles for them at first. They haven't had a ton of at-bats in the minor leagues. I'm not expecting them to come out and immediately go on a hot streak, but you never know. Getting back into the major leagues, different level of performance, maybe you see them do that for the Mets. All right, and the other side of this, when guys come back up and they're healthy, then other guys have to go down. Obviously, we talked about Senger. We knew he was going down. That's not a surprise at all. That was the obvious choice. Everyone knew Senger was going back to the minor leagues. But the other guy that got sent down is a surprise to some. I talked about it in one of my other videos that Brett Baty was on the block to be sent down. And then he hit the big home run against Wheeler. And I think for a lot of people, it changed their minds about maybe he's coming out of it. Maybe he's starting to get hot. But at the end of the day, they really had a choice to make. And it was really going to be Baty or Azócar. Acuna at this point has played his way into at-bats and has played his way onto this major league team as a permanent member, right? Unless he starts to struggle, for now, he's a permanent member. He's important to this team because he's able to be a spark plug. He adds some speed, some versatility. So really it was between Azócar and Baty who was going down. Azócar is the only other guy on this roster besides Taylor that you feel comfortable with in center field. Now, he's not a great center fielder necessarily, but you feel comfortable with either of those guys in center. And if something happens with Taylor in the middle of a game, do you really feel comfortable putting Nimmo in center or playing Acuna in center or playing McNeil in center? He did that in the minors and in his rehab. I don't know that they felt comfortable doing that. That's why Azócar is still on the team. Also, he would have had to be DFA'd, so they might have lost him to waivers, and that's not a chance apparently that they were willing to take. The only other flip side to this is Baty looks like he was getting hot. Over his last 8 games, he was hitting something like 370 and had a 440 on base percentage. He's been playing well lately. It might not seem like it. It's kind of strange because I looked at the stats and I don't remember him playing that well, but that could just be because we're kind of expecting him not to play well, and he did hit that big home run against Wheeler. I don't know that I love this decision, but I understand why it had to be made, because at the end of the day, do you feel comfortable with Acuna playing center field, who's done very little of that in his career? He did that last year in the minor leagues. Apparently he did well out there. I didn't watch anything. I didn't see any of the games from the minor leagues, but it seems as though they're not necessarily comfortable with having him be the backup center fielder. And you can see with Nimmo's range in left, he's not really able to play center field anymore. He's just not. He's not a center fielder. Could he make the everyday plays that every center fielder makes? Sure. But he's not going to be able to go, he's going to give up the extra base because he can't get to the ball as quickly as he used to. His range is just much less than it used to be, which is fine in left field. Center field, you can't have that. So I don't love the move because I do feel like Baty was getting hot, but I understand why they had to do it. Now, I saw another kind of opinion on this. There was a podcast that I believe SNY or the Mets put out. I don't remember exactly. I think it was SNY. It was Andy Martino with Terry Collins, and they both kind of had the same idea. They liked the idea of sending Baty down because now he's shown over the last week or 10 days that he has some value as a major league player. He's performed well in the major leagues over the last 10 days, and he was getting hot. And now you send him down to the minor leagues where you know he always hits. He always performs in the minor leagues. So now you can, if you try to make a trade, Baty might become more attractive to another team because he was starting to hit in the major leagues. And then he went down to the minors and performed really well. So now he has a little more value where teams say, well, maybe he can break out. Maybe he just needs an opportunity to play every day and he can be a good major league player. So it's almost like stashing him in the minors, giving teams a little bit of a look at him in the majors and saying, well, look, he just hit a home run off Zach Wheeler and he's performed well in the last 10 games. So, but we only had to send him down because, we had a roster crunch. We would have loved to keep him, but he wouldn't have gotten any at-bats. And it's going to make, it's almost like stashing him or hiding him. We're saying, like, here's a taste, and now he's in the minors. It just gives maybe him a little bit more value on the trade market because he did show that he was starting to heat up. I don't know if that's the case, but it seemed kind of logical to me. So overall, don't love Baty being sent down while he's performing well, but it's something that they had to do. It made the most sense in terms of the way the roster is constructed. All right, the next thing we're going to get into here, it's something that I think a lot of people have been talking about on social media, on the radio. You've heard, BT, Brandon Tierney talk about that Brandon Nimmo has the worst contract in baseball, and he's just like DJ LeMahieu for the Yankees. He just got old and broken down, and he cannot perform anymore. And so far this year, Nimmo's kind of proving him right and proving those people right. He's only batting 194, something like that. He's definitely under 200. He's just not coming through in RBI situations. He's been getting some base hits here and there, taking a walk here and there. But overall, he just has not performed. And you also see that in left field, his range is severely declining. He has been making a couple plays the last few days, but I feel like those plays that he's making are because he doesn't have the range, and he has to make a great play to kind of make an average play or a good play. Where he used to make those plays easily, now he has to jump for something or dive for something because he just can't cover as much ground as he used to. We used to see Nimmo with plus speed. He was a very fast guy. He never stole a lot of bases, but he was very fast. Now you're seeing more of an average runner, and that definitely takes away some of his ability. That was part of his game, was his speed and athleticism. And he doesn't really have that anymore. He's an average kind of runner, maybe slightly below average. I fight the fact that, a lot of people say he's slow now, he's lumbering. He's not. If you look at his advanced metrics, he's very average in terms of running speed and all that, and ground covered even. He's very average. His outfield play, if you look at his advanced stats, is actually in the plus, but you can tell he just doesn't cover as much ground and he doesn't play the same level of outfield that he used to, especially when he played center field. He was always thought of as a guy who could play center field but probably should be a corner outfielder, but he always overperformed in center for me. And now you're seeing a guy who just, he's very average to below average in the outfield. Even in left field, which is generally the easiest one to play out there. And then his hitting, while yes, his batting average is low, he does have an expected batting average of 250, and he's in the 90th percentile of hard hit rate. So he's hitting the ball hard. It's just going right into someone's glove, and he's hitting it on the ground instead of in the air a lot of times. So I don't think he is as bad as what his numbers show right now, but he clearly has lost a step. He's lost something in there, and the Mets keep putting him in that 4 and 5 hole, and I think that puts the extra pressure on him where he thinks, I have to drive in runs, I'm in the middle of the order, where really I think his approach has been wrong all year. He's swinging at a lot of pitches that he never used to. He used to work counts. That was one of the draws of Nimmo, is that he worked counts. Even if he struck out, he'd make the pitcher throw 5, 6, 7 pitches before he did that. Now, he's down 0-2 every time you look. You look away for a second, and he's already down 0-2. The approach isn't good. And I understand what they're doing because I think, in my opinion, what I see, Nimmo knows he doesn't have the speed that he used to. And he doesn't do much for you on base anymore. Yes, he can still go first to third, and he can score from first on a double. He's got average speed at this point. But it's not a big part of his game anymore. So for him, I think wrongly what the coaching staff is doing is trying to get him to hit for more power. He's become more of a power hitter over the last couple of years. I think those nagging knee and foot and back and whatever else injuries are playing a part in that. Because like I said, he doesn't necessarily want to get on base because he feels like in his mind he's clogging them up. But at the end of the day, he just needs to get his hits and he needs to come through in those RBI situations. He's been very bad with runners in scoring position this year. He's not driving in runs. And in the middle of the order, if you're going to be that kind of guy, if you're going to be that guy who hits home runs and drives in runs, you have to do it. And so far, he hasn't. Now, that's not saying he's done and he's whatever, but I do have serious concerns about him going forward. I think we are seeing the end of Brandon Nimmo being a competent player. I really do. He signed for 5 more years with a lot of money on the books. I think he's still owed another $100 million or $125 million over the next 5 years. So he's not going to ever fulfill those years. I think maybe you get this year, maybe 1 more year, and then those last 3 or 4 years of the contract are going to be really bad. And it's what you had to do at the time. We all clamored for it. We all wanted Nimmo back. And listen, if we didn't pay him, someone else was going to. He had other deals on the table, but he wanted to come back to the Mets. So I think he's going to be better than he has been so far this year, but I am concerned that we have seen the best of Brandon Nimmo. I do think now he's a 240 hitter, maybe. He hit 224 last year, but maybe he is just a 230, 240 hitter, and maybe he'll hit 25 home runs, 28 home runs. But to me, that's not what Nimmo is. We need him working counts, drawing walks, doing the things that made us want Brandon Nimmo long term. And he's just not doing that right now. Will he? I don't think so because he's changed his approach and obviously has tried to become more of a power hitter. But I wish he would. I wish they would just go back and say, just be yourself, work your counts, get on base. Even if you feel like you're clogging up the bases, you're fine. You have Soto who isn't afraid to take a walk, and he's much slower than you are. He's not as good a base runner as you are. So why not just go back to the old Nimmo? Go hit 260 with a bunch of walks, maybe hit 15 home runs, knock in 60 runs. That's all we need you to do. You don't need to be this big power hitter, which is what he's been trying to become. So overall, yes, I am worried about Nimmo, but I don't think he's going to be this bad all year. All right, another guy that people are concerned about and kind of it's unwarranted is Juan Soto. Juan Soto obviously has not hit the way that the Mets fans and the media and everyone else thought that he would so far. But he has still been productive. He's been getting walks, and he's hitting the ball hard, especially lately. He had that double a few games ago. He's gotten his singles. He's still getting his walks, and he's hitting the ball hard. It just happens to be right at someone every time. So I think he's about to break out in this series against his old team in the Nationals. They have a bad pitching staff, and I think that he really has an opportunity here to break out. And he looks like he's close. Even if you hear guys talk, guys who know, like Keith Hernandez on the broadcast and others saying, he's right there. He's hitting the ball hard. It's just finding a glove. But once that starts to happen, you start to see the results. So I have no concerns over Soto. I actually think he's going to have a big series here against the Nationals, and it's going to start him on a hot streak. And Lindor's still hot right now, so if you add Soto being hot and Pete continue to do what he's doing, Vientos looks like he's starting to hit the ball a little bit more, especially before he missed those couple games from injury. I think overall their offense is going to start to hit really well. They've been hitting, but they're really going to start to hit if Soto can get going and Lindor and Pete can stay hot. And now with McNeil and Alvarez coming back, you just lengthen that lineup even more, makes it harder for the pitchers. It just right now is kind of the perfect storm is happening for the Mets. They're super hot, 18-7, 11 games over 500, and now they're getting healthier. And Juan Soto is starting to hit. He's hitting the ball hard. So I'm just really excited for the way the Mets team has been playing, and I just expect big things in this series. I really do. The Nationals, while feisty, like I said, are not a good team. We all know that. They're just not. They're not a very good team. And the Mets should take advantage of this, especially the way they're playing. Earlier in the season, you talk about playing against the Marlins and not performing all that well, or even the Twins. You go out to Minnesota and it's like 28 degrees and guys are bundled up in the outfield. Juan Soto's bundled up in the outfield. Those are understandable things. It's early in the season. It's freezing cold. Those are understandable reasons to struggle. But now that they're getting hot and they're adding new pieces to the team, I just think they're really going to start. They're going to really take off now. And instead of these 1 or 2 run games that they're winning, they're going to start to dominate these bad teams. I could be wrong. It's baseball, but that's how I feel. I feel like Soto's about to get hot and the Mets are about to get even hotter. And they're going to do great things. So that's all I got today. If you're still here, please like and subscribe and comment what you think. How do you think the Mets are going to do in this series? I think they're going to take 3 out of 4. Tell me what you think. Is it going to be a 4-game sweep? Are they going to lose it? Are they going to take 2 and lose 2? Let me know. And yeah, until next time, let's go Mets.